And we also wanted to thank Susan Smolhowski and Jesse Bishop for inviting us here, and also Maury and Eric and everyone who works for the festival. We're so happy to be here.
So I guess, I don't know, we don't really probably have a whole lot to say other than answer any questions that you guys may have. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, it's a great question. The question was, what do we do for water? And the land doesn't have any sort of running water or streams or anything on it. So all the water is brought up in big jugs. And at some future point, I could drill a well and we could, have running water in the house if we wanted. I can't really see, so.
How much land did you buy?
Okay. It's 5 acres, but there's a lot of 5-acre pieces of land up there, but not a lot of people built on them, so it looks like it goes on forever.
Where do you keep your truck?
That's actually, we rented that truck to for the purposes of pulling that there, but I actually don't have a car.
Well, in the beginning, Christopher had a truck, and he actually sold it to fund the tiny house halfway through, but we didn't actually have footage of that, so we didn't mention that part in the film. But the truck that he mentions in the beginning was sold.
There's one in the back. Yes, I was interested that these tiny houses look like tiny houses. They didn't look like they were futuristic or ecologically based, other than being tiny. Is there a different movement of, and the other thing is, you could have just let a house trade. Yeah. What's the difference? What's the deal?
Okay. Apparently I'm answering this one. So, I'm going to recap your question. You're asking, they look like normal houses, and why do they look like normal houses and not like other alternative types of buildings? Is that right? Yeah. And then also we could have bought like an RV or something like that. Well, I think that's the attraction of the tiny house movement, is that they are normal looking houses. They're built the exact same way, minus the foundation. And people can really picture themselves living in it. They don't feel like they're necessarily compromising much more than space. Whereas an RV, a lot of people don't really like the aesthetic of RVs. They're square a lot of times, or shiny and metal. And they're really cute things, and you can make them look like you want. You don't have to buy them off of a manufacturing line. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the films that we profiled are kind of the traditional gabled roofs and porches and things like that, but there are some more modern looking designs and things like that. But I think people who are drawn to tiny houses are drawn to kind of the archetypal, house, form. So. Yeah,
and I'd also say that some people sort of view the tiny house thing as a sort of a movement of civil disobedience in some respects, and we had a cut of the film before this cut that Anne and Darren in the beginning, the first couple we profiled, where she said, the fact that it looks like a house, in that when a child draws a house that looks exactly like it sort of opens them up to the possibility of living in a tiny house.
How many hours did you spend on it, or don't you want to remember?
So the question is, how many hours did we spend on it? And I honestly, I'm really bad at things like organization and keeping track of things in general, numbers and receipts, and I have like bags of receipts spilling out that I've been meaning to tally up how much it really cost. I think that it probably was a neighborhood of, with everyone's hours combined, maybe more than 1,000 man hours, probably. Honestly, I'm just guessing right now. It was a lot. It took a year, and we worked on it probably anywhere from 3 days to 7 days a week, depending on the time. So.
Yeah, are you able to declare this as your primary residence, or what's the legality out there in Colorado? And then, secondly, insulation for it. How much did you put in there preparing for that weather, and where do you think you can go with it?
Okay. So the first question was, what's the legality of the tiny house? Can you declared as your official residence. So the land has an address, and it's actually like 480 something Moonbeam, which is kind of an awesome name. And so I guess because it has an address, maybe I could. Mail doesn't go out there, but I'm not sure actually. I think maybe it has to be on a foundation for them really to consider, because I don't think it changes my property taxes to have it out there. So maybe that's sort of the definition. You know, when they start taxing you on it, it's a house. But I actually don't know the answer to that. So the second question.
Insulation.
Oh yeah, it was about the insulation, and that's actually the only step of the whole process that we didn't do ourselves, because it sits at 9,000 feet, and you can't really tell that in the film, but it's a high mountain valley. It's actually in South Park, which is where the TV show's named after. And yeah, so the insulation we chose was a soy-based spray foam insulation, which you need this massive equipment. It's kind of toxic when you first apply it, so we couldn't really do that ourselves. And initially, I'd actually bought some used 3-inch thick foam core to put in there, and then I was just thinking about trying to make it as insulative as possible, and also that stuff is that we used is fire resistant, where the other stuff wasn't, and so safety was kind of an issue, and so I thought the spray foam was a better way to go.